Hello class, my name is Jacob Allen, and today I will be doing my presentation on the poem by Dylan Thomas called Do Not Go Gentle into the Good Night. So for the beginning of this presentation, I would like to reread this poem from the beginning. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning. They do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears. I pray, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So, just a basic little summary. If you already don't know, the different viewpoints is what we go through of death. You have the wise men, the grave man, you have the good one, and you also have the wild man. And the basic gist of this poem is the fight for life. No matter what it is or whatever your viewpoint is, the speaker seems to be trying to motivate and maybe his father, trying to motivate his father, or maybe us as readers, to not give up to, in our old age, even though, we are not old yet. So for themes, obviously the theme seems to be old age, as there are a lot of men who are nearing the end of their life. Death as well, with defiance, and the defiance to death, family, and of course, fight. The theme itself comes out kind of within the first 3 lines of the poem, saying that do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. So we get that theme already. He's trying to say that old age should burn, and that old age and the burning, he seems to be talking about the kind of how the young life itself is a fire, it's chaotic and whatnot. He's talking that burning and that passion for life should still be in old age. And fire, again, is hot, it's intense, and it's consuming. So that's the kind of fight he wants you to have, that kind of passion for life. We also see rage shows up twice in that first 3 lines. That also helps emphasize just the intense nature of the message that our speaker is trying to give. So for my analysis, I would like to look at the wise man and the grave men. To me, these are the 2 most impactful viewpoints towards death in this poem. So for the wise man, we also, in this one, through the wise man, we realize that death is inevitable. That whole spiel is delivered to us. And the speaker seems to also acknowledge that even if you do know, like a wise man, that death is coming and that's right, it's the good night is right, he doesn't want us to be passive going into it still. As the wise man himself had forked no lightning with his words, saying that even though the wise man had a lot of knowledge and a lot of things he could give out to people, the one thing he has not done, like lightning has done, is shock the world. Maybe like that's what he's talking about, like literally and figuratively. As lightning hits the ground, it technically shocks the world. Lightning is another form of light. It lights up that dark sky, which I think is something that between these 2 viewpoints is kind of, the dark sky is another message for death, and that light is the light piercing through, and that happiness through the lightning. He seems to be, that's what the man wants as fulfillment. Lightning is powerful. It's also violent almost. It's loud. It's a big crash. It's destructive. So even though he's been more passive with his words, he wants to use them to really leave a flash, something, a flash of knowledge maybe. And for the grave men, it's also, again, it's a pun towards our kind of our overarching theme of death, as the grave, tomb, that kind of thing seems to go into it. As the grave man is also sees with blinded eyes. With that, he's saying that he's blinded eyes is he's kind of accepted that, like, the seriousness of death, and that happiness, or that will to live, is kind of just dampened. He can't see the light anymore. But even then, he can't see the light. He could still be blinded eyes, again, could blaze like meteors and be gay. So blaze shows up again as well, blazing, exactly as the fire in the beginning, how old age should burn. Again, that blaze, that meteor, is really talking about the ones who are holding on to life as a meteor, as they also flash across the sky, again, with the dark sky, like the lightning has, kind of bringing the light to the dark. As in that happiness, there's a lot of darkness, but you can be as the meteor. You can still be surrounded by darkness, but you're that meteor that's ablaze, that's still holding on to life, and gay, happy. You can still be happy with that, even as you're blinded. So for the more technical aspect of the poem, instead of analysis of symbolisms and all that, the overall meter, it seems to be an iambic pentameter. Throughout the most of the poem, there's some I think one of the stanzas had a little change to it compared to the other ones. It seems to follow that da-dum rhythm throughout most of the poem. It has strong end stops. The end of those stanzas, or even each end of the line, it carries over to a kind of a ending in that strong syllable. And with that strong end, it keeps that kind of intense and passionate tone throughout the poem. And then most of those rhymes that were involved with the poem and the form and the flow used to be in the ites and the a's throughout the entire thing. In conclusion, the poem itself, it was intense and passionate, and not just the tone, but the message itself. And what the message seemed to be to me, as a reader, is no matter the viewpoint, you want to fight for your life. No matter if you accept it, if you have a blinded sight like the grave man, if you're accepting of that death, if you truly weren't not ready to anticipate for the end of your days, you still want to fight, no matter where you're at in that old age. And for the rage as the conclusion, again, it shows again that passion for the fight. More importantly, it's kind of how you look at death. Instead of just acknowledging it, you want to rage against it. You don't just want to be like, I know it's there, I'm still gonna. No, you want to have a rage. You want to let your life burn. You want your life to leave a very impactful way, which that rage seems to have that going, because you care for your life so much that you're raging against death. And then another last piece of the conclusion is that this seems to say that there's always enough time, even in the end of your days, and there's a lot of regrets, and maybe your time is coming off. I think there's always enough time to fight. There's always enough time to use what you have left to leave that impact, to maybe fork some lightning with your words, to be that meteor, to bring the darkness into the light. Those kind of things is what I was left off for the conclusion of this poem. Again, thank you very much for being here with my presentation. I hope you have a great rest of your night.